Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands.
upcoming tours.
And show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
Week of November 6, 2023, Matthew Rhodes.
Welcome back. It's November, the time of year when we reflect and begin to take stock of the past year. And here at All That Jam, we're glad that you're joining us today. I'm Kevin.
I'm Amanda.
And this is the All That Jam weekly wrap-up, a lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands. Last week we sat down with Scott from Magic Beans, and coming up this week we have excerpts from our interview with Matthew Rhodes from Tropidelic. We also have the top 3 stories of the week. How was your week, Amanda?
Hey, Kevin. My week was good. Lots going on. Not too much live music, though, but that's cool, right? Sometimes that happens.
Exactly. Sometimes we just have to take it slow. I found that I've become a Spafford person. I feel like they have free streams on YouTube, so I don't have to have a no subscription or anything. And I've been watching every show, and they just continue to really amaze me. I mean, there are some songs that I'm not particularly, you know how I am with lyrics. But I mean, just their jams, they're just so fantastic. And sooner than later, we're going to have Jordan come back once. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to talk to them. I feel like Corey Scheckman has propelled them to another level.
I
Like,
completely agree with you, Kevin. And, I've always liked them. I think that for various reasons, I have not seen them live nearly to the extent I've seen other bands, but I would like to change that. And I know that they just announced last week they're going to do a Colorado ski town tour in February, which I'm really excited about. They'll hit Old Town Pub in Steamboat Springs, which is an awesome venue, and make it around to a few other places. So let's hope weather permits that some of us can
right.
to those awesome towns.
Now, did you get snow?
We've had some snow. Here in Denver, Front Range, it usually melts pretty quickly. So it's beautiful. And then the next day, just a little bit left. So that's nice.
Right. Reese, you can do that, baby doll. Do it. Okay, cool. Yeah, other than Spafford, I haven't been checking much. I did not hear any of the Goose. I guess you've been getting reports that everything is very nice over there, small venues and all.
Yeah, I definitely have. I've been hearing from some people over there. And what it seems like is happening is, it's kind of settling into a nice travel schedule. Talked to some people who are on a train today, head into the next town, and so far everything seems great. So I'm really happy for everybody that's able to go and experience that.
I think they have Amsterdam next.
Yeah, so it's just going to be so much fun, and I have to give it to some of the premier Goose affiliated meme makers, Goose Band memes especially. They've really taken this entire tour to heart and are producing some excellent and hilarious content. I guess this Europe tour is just the gift that keeps on giving in so many.
Yeah, I've been making rusty jokes about a friend of the pods, young Ryan,
Ah, Big Ben
from a
apart.
European vacation. He had the beret with rusty on it.
Why didn't we think of that? We could have had one made. That's easy enough.
Yeah, you got him a shirt. Actually, he posted a picture of him with Jeff, and Jeff had the beret on, so we put Rusty on Jeff's beret.
Jeff, I saw that. Jeff looked very, very local. He
He
could pass.
did. He could pass. He could pass. All right. Why don't we jump into
The top 3 stories of the week.
Okay, Kevin, 3 stories for this week. First one is maybe a continuation of an event that some of you out there may know about. I'm going to talk a little bit about an upcoming charity event. This is going to be held in March, and this is for the Go Big for Hunger benefit. This has happened in the past. I know last year it definitely occurred. Basically, what it is an all-star band that features members of Fish, the Meters, the Dead, Further, and more at the Portland House of Music in Maine. This is March 8th. And what they're doing is supporting fight against child hunger in Maine specifically. This is an organization founded by Greg Martins, who himself is a musician, and it raises money to support Full Plate's Full Potential, which is, I think, Maine's kind of premier anti-hunger organization. So they raise money through concerts, and they're going to be doing that in March. Tickets are already on sale. And also on Live for Live Music, there's some great coverage of last year's event, which also featured Fishman, George Porter Jr., and more. So if you're curious to see, how that went down, you can find some information there.
And did they announce who's playing?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So the lineup so far, I mean, it's great. This is definitely something that I think a lot of people would be into. As I mentioned, Fishman, George Porter Jr., Tom Constantin, Melvin Seals, Wally Ingram. They're I guess, the all-star band. And then there are going to be some others, Down East Dead, Darby Sabin and Friends, and some special guests that will show up throughout the night.
Nice. Did you see that Fishman's selling the general store?
I did hear something about that. Yeah.
2.9 million, almost 3 million.
Yeah. That place,
Has 3 extra properties besides the main structure. A house you can live in, like a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house you could rent out. I mean, it seems like it could financially be stable. You could make something like that work.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it was in 2017, after a pretty extensive renovation, if I remember correctly, that the store reopened. So they've had it going for quite a while. And I'm sure that has become, quite a kind of a stopping point for a lot of people, in that area, which is cool.
And I can see. I mean, he went through the divorce, so you get divorced. It isn't the two of them able to run it,
Right. Well, it's interesting too because Fishman and Breyer bought it in like 2010 or 2011. Then they sold it to focus on their farm, and then after there were some initial renovations made, Fishman put an offer and bought it back. So he's actually now bought it and sold it twice.
He loves that store.
Right? So there's obviously a connection there for sure.
He wants to be a shopkeeper. That's all he's ever wanted.
My dream of owning a deli and a bakery, I get it. It does sound great. Probably in reality, a lot more work than it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my guess. So we'll keep tabs on this event that's coming up in March and see who else they might be announcing. That's our first story for the week. Second story for the week. I try to find kind of a mix of things to talk about every week, and sometimes that can be a little challenging. But this week I found a really interesting article. This was in the New York Times, Kevin, and I was curious, have you heard a lot about music therapy?
I took a class about the philosophy / psychology of music in college, and we talked a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you do hear about in passing, like art therapy, but it's sometimes really hard to understand, well, what exactly about music scientifically is helpful for reducing anxiety or depression. So the Times just last week put out a really great article. It's a small field, relatively speaking, but it has grown over the last decade. And as you would imagine, it helps people cope with various ailments, chronic pain, limited mobility, hypertension, as well as mental health. And scientific research has started to explore why music appears to have such a strong effect on health and wellness, particularly mental health. It can kind of serve like a conduit to lift somebody's mood, help them reflect, and reduce all the things that we don't really want in our lives kind of taking over. So there's a great story in there. There's some really good first-person accounts of people, different age ranges. But what I thought was really interesting is there's a doctor who is mentioned in this article, and turns out he is actually a keyboardist in a very long-running Grateful Dead cover band in the general New York City area. He's Dr. Kenneth Agin, and he's the director of music therapy at NYU. They have a school of culture, education, and human development. And as the article says, music has been a driving force in his life. His Grateful Dead tribute band is actually 14 years old, so he's been doing this for a while. And he said he wants his clients to kind of discover the power of communing and collaborating with other people through music, group sessions, one on one meetings. And he has this quote that just kind of rang true to me. He said, "When you join with other human beings through music, there's no other experience like it. I think it completely changes how you think of yourself." I just love that, Kevin. So I thought this was something that was definitely worthwhile to talk about today.
Give me one. Give me. All right. Yeah, it's fascinating to me. I mean, just maybe it has something to do with. I always like that they say that music and math are related, that on some level. And I think for me, I love watching baseball, and it isn't so much about the sport itself. It's I run numbers through my head. They always give you stats, and I'm continually running that, and I think that helps me sometimes calm down having that. And I wonder maybe music does something. It makes your brain work in a certain way where it you aren't focused on all the other crap in the world.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and there was this awesome example in the article about another doctor who uses a special stethoscope to record a patient's heartbeat. And then she will work with the patient and maybe sometimes their family to find a meaningful song, add some personalized lyrics or harmonies to it. So she uses that person's heartbeat as the rhythmic pulse of the song. And
Oh,
that then
nice.
lives forever. Like, how amazing is that?
That's incredible. It
Yeah.
makes me think of Shakespeare too with the heartbeat. A
The
lot of
and
what he wrote was, to be or not to be. It had that, and
oh,
there's a musicality to what he wrote,
there
you
is.
know.
That iambic pentameter is gorgeous, and it's definitely something that you can hear and kind of instantly know what it is. Not to divert too much, I'm reading a biography about Mozart right now, and it's fascinating, absolutely incredible. Back to the math piece, and sometimes just how some people can instinctively really understand all of that. There's some excellent descriptive work in the book about how Mozart was able to just inherently understand harmonies and building blocks of music and putting those different tones together, and really also just about the structure of different song types like sonatas. And I am finding that almost as fascinating as learning about him as a person. So it's just super cool.
Yes, it is. Amadeus, one of my favorite movies. Such
Yeah.
a great movie.
Well, and I'll just say this, that one of the key pieces of this book so far is that it's written in a way that anyone can understand it. I love that. It's a really great kind of tone throughout the book. But Mozart was a happy guy. He wasn't full of angst. He had a pretty good family life. And so I just love the
Lots
fact
of
that
ladies hanging out.
yeah. He was a gregarious guy, loved to tell jokes. And it's just kind of nice to read a biography of someone who obviously, right, is an absolute, one of the legends forever in that type of music, and really kind of going into other types of music too. And it doesn't always have to be a sad story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, we went a lot of directions there. I'm glad. I like that. Okay, so the third story this week, Kevin, I told you I had a hard time finding one, and it was honestly because I didn't want to talk about this, but we're gonna talk about it. And it is that new slash old Beatles song that's been making waves here now and then. I wanted to talk about the music video. It's just odd to me. I hate to lead with that. I try to be, as agnostic as possible. But Kevin, I was curious to know if you have heard what's, being called the last Beatles song, or if you've seen the music video.
Well, first on the song, meh.
Hmm.
They should have just allowed it be. I didn't think the bird song was all that from the anthology set when they did the same kind of thing. Just let it be. Release the the unfinished demo, whatever. The video, I mean, hell, they got Peter Jackson to do it, and then it's weird. It's weird. I'm not sure where I fall with it. Like some of it's a little like awkward to watch, I guess.
Yeah, that's how I felt. It almost reminded me of when I used to watch some of the early Office episodes, and Michael Scott as a character was so believable and so wretchedly awkward that you couldn't help but watch it happen in front of you, but at the same time you're cringing. And that's kind of how I felt about this video. And normally I'm all for whatever people want to do, but there's something about this to me that just felt, I guess, jump the shark a little bit, just over the top, too much. I mean, I get it. There's a lot of footage that is still out there, and that's one thing that I think the Beatles do have. Film has always been a really big part of what they created, and it starts out just fine. Some never before seen footage. And then we see, Ringo and Paul today. Okay, great. But then they're like in heaven, and Lennon is looking at them, and it's like a sunset. And then you've got, John Lennon pointing at today's Paul McCartney. I don't know. It made me just say, like, WTF, what the fuck's going on here? So I'm curious to see how that gets, additional reactions, because I know it was just released.
True to the spirit of early MTV. You don't know what the hell happened.
And maybe that's what it is. And maybe that's how I should think about it, is more in that vein that, the Beatles were silly, at least, at certain parts of their career. They sang about fun animals and whatnot. They had some fun in the studio. So maybe this is exactly what it's supposed to be. I'm just never sure how I feel about superimposing people who are no longer alive and kind of giving them these really active roles and things, because they have no control over what's being used.
Yeah, well, their estate signed off on it.
Oh, those people.
Yeah. Well, they won't let Paul release the Carnival of Light, this ambient whatever piece of music concrete or whatever they called it, from 67, 68, before Revolution 9. And because the rest of the band's like, it's horrible, but Paul's been trying to release it for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so I was looking, actually, I was curious to know who owns the rights to the Beatles music now. And I guess it's Sony, right? Sony ATV, in terms of the music itself. I don't know about the film, though. Those might be different.
Right. And I guess McCartney still controls the song itself, because the credit's going to be Lennon and McCartney, even though Lennon and McCartney didn't write together after the first 2 years. They still left it as that. It's like Dr. Dog, I think, does that. Scott McMicken and the other guy are both listed on everything, even though they didn't write together from way back,
Mm-hmm. Right. And I guess I probably misspoke there. Paul did fight for a long time to regain the rights to all of that. I mean, I know that was a very,
Michael Jackson did him wrong. Michael Jackson bought the catalog back in the 80s and did him wrong as shit right from under him. He stole it.
I mean, it's almost like a game of like ping pong, right? It's just things kind of go back and forth, and it's hard to keep track. But yeah, when Michael Jackson bought that whole catalog, that really pissed Paul off, if I remember correctly. They'd been
more fucking say, no more Ebony and Ivory. Oh no, that was Stevie Wonder. What was the other one that he did? He did too. The Girl Is Mine. I
mean, hello, like those are great. But it was only a couple years after that.
Talk about a weird video.
Oh yeah, that's true.
They were buskers or medicine men or whatever.
Okay, so maybe this isn't so out of line. I'm actually glad we're talking about this, because
we're working through it there for you.
We are live in real time.
There we go. So it's a homage to early MTV. We'll just leave it with that.
I feel better now. I will sleep tonight. Most likely.
There we go.
Thank you.
All right, let's jump into this Matthew Rhodes thing. Tropidelic are a band out of Ohio, have a reggae kind of thing, a 311 kind of thing. Really interesting stuff. They have their own festival. This first segment, though, we talked about the new LP, their last LP. I guess it's been over a year now since it came out. The guest on there, a guy from 311. And then we got into life on the road, record labels, the industry, the whole 9 yards. So let's check that out. And that's what you got to do. What imprint do you use for your studio releases, or is it your
Um,
own thing, or
so we're through Ineffable Records out
okay,
of Oakland, California. They are our label and our management company as well. So we linked up with them 2018, maybe something like that. But they do a great job for us. We love those guys.
right? It seems like in olden times you toured to support an album. Now it seems like the people put out albums to support the tour because the albums aren't the moneymaker anymore. What's your view on the industry now? Like streaming, the fact that touring basically is the way to make money unless you get sync licensing, I guess.
Well, I've only been around long enough to know that's how that's how things are for me. So I don't know how it used to be, but um, I mean, that being said, I was alive at the onset. I was just coming of age at the onset of like kind of the internet and streaming and Napster and all that stuff. So, I wasn't a man and an adult to know that this stuff's like, but I do kind of remember, as a kid. Um, but I mean, there's no question that like the live touring is how you make your money. I wish it wasn't that way because it can get hard out there. Um, but yeah, there's no changing that at this point. I mean, I'm sure something revolutionary will happen again at some point that'll flip everything on its head. But for now, you got to be on the road if you want to make a living. Uh,
Right.
I'm sure there's exceptions to that. I'm sure there's people that find little avenues, but for most of us, that's the reality.
Right. Alan Evans from Soul Live, we talked to him and he quit over quarantine. He quit, going on the road. He'll do gigs at like the Blue Note Soul Live's playing, but it's interesting. But he has a record label. So he had already, I guess, set up the infrastructure to transition out of that. So, all right. When you go on the road, how do you guys travel?
So we'll take rentals for extended touring, especially to the West Coast, but we have our own like 32 seat sort of now RV that we renovated ourselves. Um, so it works out for us and it's paid off and it's home. It's home on the road or most of the, half the year. So
Right. Did you tour with 311 already, or you're going to be touring with them later this year?
we just did their cruise last month. I'm sorry, in March, but we did like a month long tour with them in September of last year, which is super super incredible experience. But yeah, their fans have shown us a lot of love over the last few years here, and just really grateful to those guys.
Right. I'm guessing you count them as an inspiration, as an influence on you.
Yeah, most definitely. They've been in my steady rotation since I was, since I was like 18, 15 years old.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, now it's like, we're like sharing the stage with them. Really awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I saw them in '94 at the Fox Theater in Boulder.
Wow.
When I lived out there many years ago. So you have a festival coming up, Everwild, I believe. Is this the first year for it?
This will be year number 3, and then we kind of rebranded, so we've actually been doing it longer than that. Um, yes, this year outside of Columbus, Ohio, in Thornville, Ohio, at Legend Valley, which is really like a storied place, and Grateful Dead used to play
Buckeye
there,
Lake.
and lots of others. And this year we have Pepper as one of the headliners. We play 2 nights. We have Bone Thugs and Harmony, Prof, Iatera, some of our good friends, Bumpin' Uglies, Little Stranger. It's just kind of like it's just a great opportunity to kind of bring some of our, some people we look up to and some of our friends together in like a unique kind of music experience. So, we don't all try to stack it with sort of one genre, I guess. It's try to spice it up. And yeah, it did really well last year, and looking forward to another great year with it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of festivals there, especially like you're saying, if you're going to throw in something that I wouldn't normally see.
Right. Right.
It definitely makes it worth it there. So when you're not listening to your own music, what do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of like bluegrass, and I love hip hop. It's like through and through. But I like my favorite artist in the last, like favorite new artist I should say, which I know he's not even really that new anymore, but is Tyler Childers.
Okay.
You ever hear of him? He's from like
Yes.
Eastern Kentucky, but just I love it so much. It's like just kind of what I imagine some like rebel country would sound like today. And there's a couple of those guys, rebel country guys that I listen to too. But yeah, I listen to everything though. Like if I hear a band's name that I've heard of and never listened to, I make a point to go look it up. I just try to be well rounded.
I hear you. That's the way to do things. So you Kali Bud's Rhythm album, Cali Roots Rhythm,
Yeah,
you had you put a single pivot foot on there. How
yeah.
did that whole thing come about?
That was a project through Ineffable, our label, and they asked us to do it, and it was awesome. He has a Collie Buds has a studio out of sort of the compound that Ineffable operates in out in Oakland, which is the old building where I guess Green Day used to record. Um, Pretty cool setup. So we went out there and visited a couple times now, and yeah, it was awesome to be a part of it.
What was it like working with Johnny Cosmic?
Well, we kind of worked, we worked. It was pretty cool. I mean, he was. We were actually on the road with him too. I guess it was last year too, with him and K Bong, and just like they're the nicest people ever. Super nice guys.
Fantastic. And then you had another in 2021. You also had you were on the house that Bradley built, which was something for Sublime.
Yeah, it was for the Knoll Family Foundation. Bradley Knoll's family. They have, I believe it's a facility, maybe a couple ones now. Essentially rehab facilities, and we were part of the project to benefit them, and got to meet them a handful of times too. Just incredibly nice people, super welcoming. Always great to see them.
It's fantastic. So what about, let's talk about the Grammys. You got a nod there. What was that like?
Well, it's just like a consideration. So I don't know how it was a Grammy consideration. So what that pool looks like, I couldn't tell you. But even to get put into consideration is pretty cool. So maybe one day.
Right, right. I'm sure that when you started, your first thing was let's get real big and get a Grammy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I don't know. I've never been one to like even the Red Rocks thing, like as incredible as it's going to be, and just very thankful I am. Like I've never been one to be like, oh, I want to play. My goal is to play Red Rocks, or my goal is to win
Right.
a Grammy. I just kind of like play music, and I work real hard, and good stuff happens. So
I really enjoyed that conversation with them. And like you said, they do have some new music that is coming out soon. So if you're a fan or just want to check them out, I would definitely encourage you to find, it's called All the Colors. The album art is also amazing. And that's a great one. But let's get into a little bit of housekeeping here for just a second. If you are on social media, and I'm pretty sure you are, at All That Jam Pod is where you can go on all of the major platforms to find us, as well as allthatjampod.com. And then YouTube. Kevin's doing an awesome job of putting up complete interviews there so you can kind of get the full picture, the full story. Because Kevin, I know sometimes it's hard to fit all of that into this show because we try to keep this, an easy listening experience. Kevin, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we have coming up this week?
Yeah, Tuesday, Stucky from Surprise Chef back on. Wednesday, we're going to have Jonathan Byerly from Emergency Group. Thursday, make sure that you're there Thursday for Russell Alton. He's going to be talking about Lamp, which is his project with Scotty Metzger and Ray from Tab. Friday, Ryan Lerman about, we heard earlier about Scary Gouldings. We're going to hear about some of his other projects this Friday. Saturday, we got Sugar Business Trio from Northeast. Got a little bit of heavy thing working. They've worked with Alan Evans. They recorded in his studio. Chris Yunker sits in on keyboards with them sometimes. So they're going to be a band to watch. And then Sunday, we're going to have something with Drew Becker, who is the sound guy for the infamous String Dusters and an all-around good guy. You want to take it into it's Cleveland scene philosophy, Mattis. I can't pronounce the guy's name and set list. So whatever you want to focus.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. There's always so much that's coming up every week. And what I love is just this really wide range of not only different artists, but types of music within the scene. I love that. But let's get back into the interview with Tropidelic here. Here, you're going to be hearing a little bit about the music scene in Cleveland, as well as how they work through set list creation, and then in general, some more philosophical moments. So let's hear what they have to say.
Let's see where it takes you.
Yep.
So Cleveland and reggae. How does that connection come together? Cleveland has a pretty good reggae scene, if I'm hearing correctly from people.
Yeah. So, we're probably, for those that know reggae, then they know that we're not reggae, but like but Cleveland does, but I do love reggae and we certainly like reggae in Cleveland. There's an act in Cleveland called ITOW that has since kind of disbanded, but there's different variants of the band and shows, and one being Carlos Jones and the Plus Band. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I was always told that ITOW was one of like the first kind of iterations of like American reggae music, however many decades ago, probably I want to say like the 80s, probably maybe late 70s. And they definitely have like a scene here for reggae, and Carlos Jones in particular kind of helped mentor me um, in the local scene here. But for the most part, we've created our own scene out here. Like there's not a lot of this is a big hip hop city. It's a big metal music city. There's not a lot of anything else. Rock, I guess, too. So we kind of had to pave our own way through a lot of this, and not just Cleveland, but like a lot of the surrounding places as well. We're talking, you know, post-industrial, depressed cities that they're not really, they're not really.
It reminds me of the situation in England in the 70s, the end of the industrial era there, and it becomes fertile for musicians. I guess you have, hey, I'm going to either have a crap job at McDonald's or I'm going to go try to hit the road and
Right, right. But to that note, more so, like you have this music like hip hop and metal. It's like this gritty stuff, and that's kind of how these cities are. Um,
right.
so so to have something that's even remotely considered reggae, which again, I'm very loosely, is kind of it's definitely an outlier out here.
Right. But you're going to have Bone Thugs and Harmony, you said, right, at your festival?
Yep, yep.
That's fantastic. I haven't heard that name forever. Um, I, okay, so let me ask you a little deeper question. You've been on the road for many years. What has that taught you? Would you say that you have a philosophy or a point of view on life?
Based on my time on the road, yeah, I mean, it's shaped me as in every aspect of my life because it's been such a substantial portion of it now. But I can't think of. I'm sure they're out there for sure. Again, everything has exceptions, but like there can't be many, I should say, lifestyles, and especially the way we do the road is we sleep at truck stops in our bus, we keep costs down, we shower at the gyms, and you do that for so many years, like, and let alone the other stuff you just encounter as a musician, like the stuff you see, it's humbling. It makes you I made more well-rounded to be general about it, but because you just see a lot of stuff. You see a lot of stuff that a lot of other people don't get to see, and how can that not kind of shape you and your opinions and your ideas and stuff? But it's not. At least the way we do it, it is not a glamorous thing, though. It's tough, and that being said, though, like I want to be careful not to complain because it's like it's everything I've ever wanted, and it's here, and I'm doing it, and it's how I make my living. But it's definitely not easy. It's not like
Right.
an easy
I
thing.
hear you. Makes the reward that much better.
Sure.
Um, do you have any other projects? Any side projects outside of Tropidelic?
I'll put some stuff together when occasionally during COVID I did and stuff, but for most part, all my focus is on as far as music is on Tropidelic.
Right. Now, are you guys rehearsing every week, or when you're not on the road, do you take a step back a little bit?
Yeah, so I've been in the studio lately. We have a couple rehearsals lined up. When we're out there on the road, I mean, we're playing so much that like we won't go steady rehearsals and unless we're preparing for something in particular. So we're getting our summer sets together and for our festival Everwild, and then we head out on the road here in about another month.
Very nice. And where are you going to be going? Is this this is the one with Dirty Heads that you're
Correct.
going to be hitting in a month?
So it
Very
starts in
nice.
Montana and goes through Texas and the Midwest.
Interesting. Interesting. I love it. Anybody that you have in your head that you want to work with?
Um, sure, there's lots, but I don't want to put it out into the
Okay,
universe.
fair enough.
There's
I'm with you. I found twice in the past 6 months I've tweeted I'm going to talk to somebody today and have an interview, and then it's screwed up. So I've learned not to do that
right,
myself.
right.
What? Let's talk. What's how do I say his name? Matasai. I'm not going to pronounce his name
Mattis
right.
Yahoo.
Mattis Yahoo, yes. Now he's changed. I used to work at the 8x10, the Funk Box in Baltimore, and he would come in and we'd have to do the whole kosher thing. And I think he's gotten away with that. You've worked with him recently, right?
Um, he was featured on a song on our it was 2020, I think, was our album.
Okay.
He killed it. I did like a live stream thing with him once. Um, but I texted him not too long ago. We were in town at the same town at the same time. But he was a pleasure to work with. Nice guy. Super talented, like super diverse kind of skill set he has. And talk about shows being different. Like his shows are always different. And he does like these different variations of songs, and it all kind of just keeps moving. It's a great live show.
I think that I caught him on a stream from maybe the Redondo Beach Life Festival last year. I think he played
Okay,
one of the days there, and I just found it threw me because it was different than what I had remembered, and it had been 20 years since I heard him. So
sure,
I would hope over 20 years we'd man,
yeah.
unless you're the Ramones, then you play the same thing for 15 albums, and that's the end of it. Anything else you want to throw out there that you want to get out to the people?
No, that's an interesting point though. What you brought up though, because I forget who I just watched was touching on something similar with some artist, but they were saying, you know, I'm singing songs on stage that I wrote 8, 9 years ago, and like we're not talking like we're talking a lot of. I mean, anybody's 8, 9 years change, but from when you're like young 20s and going into 30s, that's a big shift for a lot of people. So people tend to forget that they think you are that same person from whenever time, or that's what they want to hear, and it's like, I'm just a dude. Like my life changes too, and I don't. There's not probably very many people that are the exact same person they were 10 years ago or
No,
whatever. So it's an interesting point, but it's
imagine
one
me
that I think people forget. Like
imagine me Mick Jagger and singing Satisfaction every night for 55 years, you know?
right, right,
That's got to be a little crazy. All right, well, why don't we wrap this up? We had some trouble getting on in the beginning, but I think we got some good stuff there.
cool.
Thank you so much for giving us some time there, and I hope you guys have a fantastic tour this summer. And Red Rocks, enjoy it, soak it in there. I'm sure standing on that stage once you walk out there is going to be all inspiring.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, let me stop this and then well, that was fantastic. Make sure that you check us out on social media, like Amanda said earlier. We're going to have Matthew McConaughey from Drunken Hearts on YouTube soon. Make sure you go over check that out. Subscribe to that channel. That'll help us, and we love the help. Next week, we're going to have Eddie Spaghetti from the Super Suckers on, and he is going to be talking about why he hates jam bands a little bit, plus some other stuff. Fantastic conversation. One of my favorite songwriters, all around, just great guy. So make sure that you keep your ear out for that. And with that, I'm going to say, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. I'll see you soon, Amanda.
All right, Kevin, take care.
Bye.